Temporary hair color applications. Temporary is just like it sounds. We put it on and it's shampooed out. And according to the product is how you apply it. The most popular temporary color is color rinses. These are capable of darkening or brightening but not lightening. They coat the hair shaft. The hair is shampooed and then we just simply squirt it out of the bottle onto the hair, trying to make even coverage with it. Another temporary hair color product that is popular at certain times of year for balls or parties or Halloween is the spray. And you simply shake it up and spray in the color. This is like a wine color. It'd be real pretty put in with finger waves or something for formal wear. The next thing with hair color applications that we want to discuss is a preliminary strand test. Preliminary strand tests are done when we are unsure of what the results of our hair color will be. Preliminary strand test is generally not used with temporary color applications, but is used more so with permanent color applications, although you may want to use it with semi-permanent. You're going to take the actual color product that you're going to be using on the client, section off a small strand, mix a little bit of the product, and actually apply it. You're going to set your timer, and it's important that you have your timer running because a strand test will tell you how long the color had to process. It will also tell you how much damage you can expect and did it turn out the color they wanted. So preliminary strand test is necessary on a client that you're unsure of what's going to occur. Do not confuse the preliminary strand test with a patch test. A patch test is done to decide if a client is allergic to the product you're going to apply to them. A patch test is not necessary if you're using foils or caps. If there's a barrier between the scalp and the product, then there's no need for a patch or allergy test. So in that case, it doesn't matter about the aniline derivatives. The hair is not allergic, so as long as it's not coming in contact with the client. So do not confuse preliminary strand test, which indicates to us have we chosen the right product, how long do we leave it on, how much damage. And the patch test then is where we mix up the product and actually apply it to the bend of the elbow or right behind the ear and leave it for 24 hours or 48 hours as some manufacturers recommend. Single process color application for virgin hair. And that simply means that the hair has never had any chemical treatment on it. You begin your application by parting into 4 sections. They are clockwise. That's right, 1, 2, 3, 4. You section a 1/8 inch section of hair and begin your application 1/2 inch from the scalp. And you continue to apply the product until you feel the hair become porous, at which time you stop. And that is called step 1 of a virgin application. You make sure you have had a patch test before you begin an on-the-scalp application, and this is an on-the-scalp application because there's no barrier between the product and the scalp. That is called step 1. After you've completed the head in step 1, you go back and apply to the growth closest to the scalp and do step 2 all the way over the head. And the reason we did not apply to the hair closest to the scalp to start with is because there's body heat that speeds up any chemical processing. We apply it second because that hair is less porous and will process slower than the ends or the porous part where she left off a while ago. So step 3 would be to apply to the porous ends and continue processing. Sometimes that's even done in the last 5 minutes because the ends will be so porous that they process in a very fast time. Okay. Now we're going to do a single process tint retouch because when a client gets color, the hair is going to begin to grow, and we're going to see a line of demarcation between the hair that was processed to start with, and that's grown out now. And a single process tint retouch, the main difference in it is the color is only applied to the new growth, and that would be right close to the scalp. We may apply a soap cap later, and a soap cap is where we let the new growth process, and then we mix some shampoo or conditioner in with our tint and simply pull it through the rest of the hair strand in order to brighten or revive the color, not actually to color it. The conditioner or the shampoo slows down the action and keeps it from grabbing on that hair that was previously tinted.
I'm going to demonstrate semi-permanent hair color application. Semi-permanent hair color applications require a patch test where you'll place it behind their ear or on the bend of their arm 24 hours prior to the application of the hair color. Semi-permanent hair colors and demi-permanent hair colors go in the same category. Both of them do require a patch test. So we're now going to show the application process, and you want to make sure that you have a glove, because when it gets on your hands it will damage it because of the chemicals. So you'll take an 1/8 of an inch strand and you're going to apply it to the whole section of the hair. So you'll just brush it throughout the hair, starting at the roots and going all the way to the end of the hair. And it also comes in a form in the bottle where you will just take and squirt it through and pull it through to the ends of the hair. It comes in a couple of different forms. Double process color. In double process color you have to lighten the hair with a lightener. This contains hydrogen peroxide, and we take it and use it to lift the hair to a higher level so that when you put the color on, it'll shine more and be more, instead of having that dirty look. This doesn't require a patch test, but your tint and color will. After you've done the process with lifting the hair to a lighter color, you'll rinse that off and dry it partially, and then you'll apply the tint or lightener.
Today we are doing full techniques, which using slicing and weaving. First, you don't have to section in any certain way because you're adding color just only to where you want it. And you can do low lights and highlights, or you can do them both at the same time, depending on what you want. What you do is you take a section of hair like this. Then I'm going to clip this down so that it does not get in the way. And then you weave it, which that's called slicing. When you take just a section of hair, that's slicing. Then you weave in and out of the hair because you don't, so that you only get certain strands. And you take part of the hair and lay it back. And I'm going to clip that back to get it out of the way. And you only take the certain of hair that you used. And you take your foil, and I'm going to wrap it around like this so that it makes it easier and stay in better. And you place it not too close to the scalp of the head, but just right where you want it, and you lay the hair right there, pull your utensil out, and you take your product and you rub it on and just go all the way to the ends using your product. But you usually want to use gloves with this because the product could get on your hands and ruin your hands. And you fold it up like that. But you don't have to fold it just like that, but anyway. And then as you're doing more foils, you can take your clip, we'll use this one, and just clip it out of the way so that it doesn't get into any of your other sections.
This is the cap technique. With any hair coloring service, you always start with a glove, okay, so that the chemical doesn't get in contact with you. In this process, you put a cap on the client's head. Tightly. You get a color, which you should get ready after you cap her so the color doesn't lose. Okay. Then you take this cap has little perforated holes in it, and you take a little needle to pull the hair out. As much hair as you pull out, the little or larger amounts that you pull out determines how big your highlights will be. If you do them sparsely, it'd be really subtle. If you do them a lot, you know. Miss Braswell. After you get the hair pulled out, the amount that you want, you'll take a comb and comb through it to get all the tangles out. And then you apply your color to the hair over and under so that you get the same amount. After you get the color on, you'll put a plastic cap over this cap so that the heat makes the color take better. You can also put your client under the dryer for a few minutes to open up the cuticle so the color will go in. After it gets as light as you like, you rinse it out, wash, style the way that you like.
Balayage or free-form technique. This is just taking a brush with your product and just following the hair strand. For narrow lines, you just use a skinny brush. If you want wider lines of color, you take a wider brush and just follow the strand of the hair, and it's for a very subtle effect. It doesn't give a dramatic look.
In hair color applications, your final result is only as good as the product and the technique you use to apply it. Temporary colors are not a problem because they wash right out. Semi-permanent colors, you want to be real careful in that you don't get it on the skin. It doesn't actually create a chemical process, but it stains. It is developed to stain the hair and the skin. Demi-permanent, you always want to make sure that you realize there is some lift, although they're called no-lift colors. There is like a 6 or 7% hydrogen peroxide mixed in it, and that does lift a little less than 1/2 level. In your single application or single process hair colorings, the product is applied to all the hair strand, and you want to be really careful about your timing with that and making sure that you don't get it on the porous ends early, because that will cause a grabbing effect, which means if you're putting on medium brown, it may wind up looking like real dark brown or almost black. Double process colors, sometimes called double application or two-step coloring, you pre-lighten to the base color that you need. If you're going to, in other words, if you're going to a platinum shade, then you're going to have to pre-lighten to pale yellow. If you're applying a tint such as bright red, you may only go to medium yellow. You also want to make sure that you formulate correctly, because no matter how good you can apply colors, if you do not use the correct formulation for your client, then you're not going to have good color results. The bowl and the brush or the bottle, and that's a question a lot of us hairstylists are still asking ourselves. I like the bowl and the brush better, but sometimes I have to use the bottle. If I'm using liquid hair color and clear hydrogen peroxide, it makes for a real liquid formula. So therefore I have to use the bottle to apply it. If you're using a tube type hair color or gel type hair color and cream developer, you have no choice but to use the bowl and the brush. Also, some comments on some of your more exotic or dramatic effects. In foiling, if somebody is wanting to be lift about 5 levels, foiling will not work. But the joy of foiling is that you can lighten a couple, 3 levels, and put highlights in the hair and go to the very next foil and put lowlights in the hair all in one application. Also, you can put some highlights in the hair that's not in the foil. You can go back and apply hair color to all of it and create a more dramatic change. In the cap application, you can also lighten and then tone or tint just certain areas of the head. And you do that by first pulling it through the cap, then applying your lightening product, then rinsing that off, and all the time you've got to keep this cap on, and then you come back with your tint or your toner and apply it to that hair that was pulled through the cap. In the balayage technique, for someone that wants real subtle changes, meaning staying within 1 level, because what happens with it, a little bit of the color bleeds down underneath it, and it's not going to process as much as where you applied the color. So you want to make sure that client understands that they may be 3 or 4 levels right in there, but they will be subtle. They will all blend with the her natural hair color, and that's really good for somebody that's just wanting to make a little bit of a change so that people do not notice it readily. Do we have any questions?